actually everybody has all the answers inside of them. And just by asking the right questions and trying to understand why something's important or what that end result really looks like, you can find the path to it.
Welcome to the Fearless Foodie, the podcast that gets honest about what it really takes to thrive in food and retail. I'm Amy Wilkinson, coach, speaker and trusted partner to food industry teams with lived experience of the pace, pressure and politics that come with the job. Fearless Foodies cut through the fluff and get straight to what actually helps. And that's exactly what we're here to do. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Fearless Foodie. Today I am joined by a Fearless Foodie, one of my wonderful friends and colleagues, Gail Paddy, who is a Fearless Foodies coach and how do I describe it, Gail, industry, if I say veteran, that makes you sound really old. That's not very nice, is it? but I want to get across to people listening is you know your stuff. You've been in retail for 30 odd years, haven't you? Welcome to the podcast, Gail.
Thank you very much, Amy. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Always enjoy a good chat.
Yeah, we probably met 18 months ago, something like that.
I think so, yeah. It's probably about 18 months ago.
You reached out to me on LinkedIn and we had a call and we just hit it off, didn't we? And you've recently gone through a similar transition to me, leaving the corporate world and becoming a coach and stuff like that. So I think it'd be really interesting for listeners to hear about it. But we always start at the start. So tell me, like, how did you end up doing what you've been doing in the food industry for the last 30 years?
Okay, well, I'd love to tell you it was all carefully planned and orchestrated, my lovely career path, but it probably all happened by chance, I think. I always knew I wanted to work in the food industry, so loved food from an early age. And at the age of 15, I remember having to take my parents into secondary school with me to go and see the headmistress and persuade her to let me do A-level home economics. It was one of those subjects where not many people wanted to do it. And I knew that I wanted to do a degree in food science. And for that, you needed 2 science A-levels plus something else. And I was never the most academic. So getting chemistry and biology A-levels was always going to be a struggle. And I needed something that I enjoyed doing. So really sort of followed my passion from about 15. Did my degree in food science. And I really wanted to go and be a food technologist and work in manufacturing, but there weren't that many graduate jobs around. And I thought food retailing was probably the closest to manufacturing that I could get. And I applied to all the big retailers. And I got offered a graduate trainee placement with Sainsbury's hypermarkets.
Yeah.
So sort of really fell in by accident, didn't really know all the jobs that were available in food retail. And just fell in love with the business. I think people either love or hate it.
Yeah, I mean it's a happy accident, that isn't it?
Really
in hindsight,
accident. Yeah.
So what made you? Sorry to interrupt, but I'm really intrigued because we talk about now how it's really hard to get people into doing food degrees and into the industry. And you were obviously passionate enough about wanting to do it that you like dragged your parents in to make them let you do home ec. How did you even know about the food industry?
Don't know.
I
honestly do not know. I remember I love things like cake decorating from when I was about 10. I think probably my grandparents had always baked, cooked.
So a foodie family.
Been really interested in, I guess, in cooking. And that then led to try and understand, well, what can you do with that? I didn't want to be a chef. I knew I didn't want to go and work in a kitchen and be a chef. And I wasn't that good to do that. So probably just started to explore. And I looked at nutrition and dietetics and whether that was something that I wanted to do. But really, most of those jobs, you ended up in the NHS in hospitals. And it felt probably not that exciting. I loved food microbiology and I did wonder about going to work in a lab and do that, and I'm pleased I didn't.
Don't say that. Microsearch sponsor the podcast. But
I love it. I happily used to grow agar in the morning and see what food poisoning organisms I could grow. I don't know. I must have just explored it and fancied it. And then fell in love with it.
Yeah. Well, sorry, I completely segued you. So you were at Sainsbury. So what was it that made you fall in love with the business? And, you know, what did you do when you were at Sainsbury's?
So I started at the start on a retail graduate scheme, which luckily I only did for about 3 months. It was the hardest 3 months of my entire life.
Was that working in store?
Really hard in
Yeah.
store. I think
Yeah.
you totally misunderstand the stresses, the hassles, the physical labour of working in store.
Yeah.
And I got seconded up to head office after about 3 months to help within one of the buying teams, and then found my way
Phew.
into a permanent job in commercial, which loved. And I probably spent about half of my career in commercial. And
Yeah.
it was exciting because you were basically in charge of defining what the ranges were that went on the shelves. You could see, the sales come through on a weekly basis. It real tangible, noticeable difference that you can make out there for customers. And so much opportunity. I guess I spent a bit of time in commercial. I did some in marketing, and then spent the last 16 years, probably felt like coming home, back in private label, doing product development, doing brand management. But within the world of retail, you can work in virtually any function that you want, and it's encouraged to move and to get more skills to your name.
Yeah. And I think that's, if there's anybody, there will be people listening that like are still at uni and stuff. I think that's really helpful to know, because I think sometimes when you start out in your career, you kind of think, I've got to just make this decision and this is going to be my path forever. But that's evidence that in certain businesses and certain sectors, that isn't necessarily the case, is it? Like, you've got lots of opportunity to work across lots of different things. And that must have stood you in good stead. I know when I look back on my career, because I worked across the same departments pretty much, did a little stint in process and technical as well, that it helps you with all those cross-functional relationships and stuff, because you have this, well, and even that grounding in retail, I did 6 months on a sandwich line and like running a sandwich line, and I was like, I know I don't want to do this. This is not for me. But it makes you get it better, doesn't it? Yeah.
Oh, totally. And I always, as I then, I guess, moved into product development in the latter part of my career in retail, it did really help because I understood how you had to sell things into the commercial teams and the ways of working and what mattered.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a lot of people try to innovate and can come up with amazing ideas, but they're not grounded in any insight or any fact or any knowledge that it's going to deliver X million pounds a year for the business. And I think, actually getting some of that breadth really does help, but both with knowledge and, like you say, the stakeholder engagement and relationships.
Yeah, there's almost that being grounded in, sounds like, as part of your career, you had that grounding of starting in retail and seeing what it's like. Because I think we forget, don't we? Like, and I had all my years in manufacturing. Sometimes when you're in those support functions, you forget about what is the end thing that is happening, which is the stores are selling the products, and in manufacturing, it's that, we're making the products and getting them out the door. Like, actually having an understanding of how that is a really challenging thing to do can give you a good grounding, but then also that commercial grounding in that at the end of the day, these are big corporate businesses that are in it to make money. So we can have all the most wonderful ideas in the world, but if they're not going to make money, we're not going to do it. Or not just money, have a purpose in some way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's it. If you and generally, if you're grounded in insight and you're customer focused, then at the end of the day, it will make money because you're doing the right things for the customers, and it's going to be something that they want to buy.
Yeah. So after Sainsbury's, you went to Asda, didn't you? So you had a number of years at Asda, and then
spent 20 years at Asda.
20 in the green machine.
In the green machine, I was only ever going for 3 years. I remember as I moved up to Leeds, and 20 years later, it was just one of the most amazing businesses to work for. The culture, the values, the caliber of leaders that you had there, and the caliber of colleagues that you worked with. I'm still in touch with, a lot of people that I worked with many years ago.
Yeah.
And, we often laugh and we say we took it for granted that caliber of people was what was normal in the industry. And it's not. It was just a phenomenal time to be there with the people that were there.
Yeah, and I did some stuff with Asda a couple of years ago. And, obviously there's lots of things that have changed, but there was still that feeling of, well, there's a lot of people that have been there a long time because the culture is so strong and, you know, that genuine feeling of caring for one another, you know. So
Oh, yeah.
it sounds like a lovely business to
I
me.
used to work really hard. You know, it wasn't an
Yeah.
easy business, but you enjoyed and you had a laugh. And I guess because it's in the centre of Leeds, you went out with people afterwards for a drink to celebrate or commiserate, whichever way it was. But there was a real feeling of camaraderie, which, you know, I think is really important when you work, that it isn't
Yeah.
just about going in, doing the job. You have to get on with the people that you work with, don't you? And enjoy
Yeah.
being with them.
Yeah. So you worked your way up the ladder at Asda. You became a director there, didn't you? And then you were also a director at Morrisons after that as well. So lots of very senior leadership positions. This is where I'm laughing because I'm thinking about, I remember when you reached out to me and you were still in your position at Morrisons. So it was like the brand director of Morrisons has messaged me. Oh my goodness. And I think there is, and I do know that that's a legacy, particularly for me, of having worked in manufacturers and like retailers being gods. And then it was a director of the gods. And then we got on a call and I was like, oh, she's really lovely and really normal.
She's all right, really.
Yeah. But I think that's, yeah. Did you ever feel that? Did you feel like particularly suppliers and stuff like that would put you on a pedestal, but actually you're like, I'm just down to earth, Gail?
Yeah, and I think, do you know what? I remember having a conversation when I was going through it was called a general manager at the time in Asda when I first got promoted to a director. And I remember having a conversation with a couple of directors at the time, Mike Snell and Mark James. And I remember them saying to me, they said, the biggest change you have when you get promoted to a director is suddenly everybody listens to you and everybody thinks that what you're saying is sort of gospel and you know everything. And that's the way that it must be done. And so I think sometimes whether it was external suppliers or people internally, you know, sometimes people would be quite literal with what you would say or the interpretation of that. And I think you do have to work quite hard to say, look, this is my view, these are my thoughts. But if there's a better way of doing it, please shout, because we're all in this together. It's, you know, it doesn't matter how we do something. I often know what the end game looks like.
Yeah.
I don't always know the right way of getting there, and people generally in your team or the supply base have much more knowledge than you do, you know, much deeper knowledge of specialist areas to help you get there. So I think there is a piece where people do sort of put you on a bit of a pedestal, maybe think that you know everything and you're going to come down hard if people don't do something the way that you want it done. And I guess, you know, I grew up at Asda with those values, one of which was always respect the individual and I guess treat people the way that you want to be treated. So I've always tried to operate like that and tried to be human and tried to be honest and open, and generally find that works. People want to work with you if you operate in that kind of manner.
Yeah, and I think that is a bit of a change to how leadership used to be, right? Like, you know, you've been part of that evolution of doing things a different way. Because I'm sat here thinking about the amount of times where we had to change a whole presentation or, you know, make a massive range change or something like that, just because some director didn't like nuts, like, you know, like, or just a throwaway comment, like you say, and people think that it's gospel. Well, Gail said this, so that's what we've got to do. Well, have you challenged Gail back? But I guess from what I'm hearing from you is that you encourage that challenge from your team as opposed to, you know, being this is I'm ruling with an iron rod kind of leadership.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, I used to challenge leaders above me as well to say, look, you didn't pay me to be a yes man. I'm happy to do anything at the end of the day. And sometimes there is a just get on and do it. But if you've got a point of view and you're paid to have a point of view, then, you know, you have to feel like you can say it and you can have your say and then move on from it, don't you?
Yeah. I'm interested in, and I'm really worrying about how I frame the question because I'm really...
Oh, Amy, just go for it. You normally do.
No, we're not... Yeah, I know. It's only because we've hit record. No, it's more about I'm really conscious of the stereotypes and all of that sort of thing. But you are a female leader in a male-dominated industry, although retail is less probably male-dominated than we see in manufacturing. And I know you've got a family and all of that. And the reason I'm hesitating is because I don't ask men how have you done this when you've got children? But that's part of the problem in itself. But I think that is the reality. So that's kind of where I wanted to go, was just to understand how you have juggled such a successful career, got to those leadership roles, and brought up a family, because I see so many women struggling to do it.
Well, and I think, to be honest, whether you're a director or any job you're doing, and male or female, raising a family is hard, isn't it? With trying to juggle everything that's going on. I think there's probably a few bits. One is when we sort of had our first child, my husband and I tried to work out how to, I guess, co-parent and manage it together. And, I see sometimes where one person seems to do most of it. I was very lucky in that we managed our lives like that. So I don't advocate this in any way, but I used to get up about 5 o'clock every morning, and I'd be at my desk in Leeds for just after 6:15.
Yeah.
Lovely hour before the office got busy of getting through stuff.
The quiet moments before the emails start pinging in and the phone rings. Yeah.
I need a nap about lunchtime, but so I'd get to my desk, just after about 6:15. My husband would do breakfast, he'd do the nursery or the school drop-off, and then I would leave somewhere between 4, 4:30 at night. Whatever was going on, I would leave at that point so that I could pick my children up and I could see them, I could spend a bit of time with them, cook the tea, play with them, help the homework, whatever it might be. And then I would log on again at night and just clear down. And I was really lucky in that it needs great bosses who are really comfortable that you walk out. And you need great teams in place that understand and help support you, as well. And they knew I'd always be on the phone, but unless there was a real crisis, I was going to be out the door, because if I didn't pick my kids up, nobody else would. And so I think, if you can work it like that, and a lot of people are frightened to ask. When I've given people advice when they're going off on maternity leave, they said, I couldn't ask if I could leave to pick my kids up. What's the worst that happens? Someone says no.
Yeah.
I've never had a boss who didn't let me give it a try, and I never changed my ways of working, because I always, we made it work as a team at the end of the day. So, I think if you can do that, I think there's a piece around, we talk about having it all. I don't think you can have it all.
No,
I know
agree.
people say you can. I don't think you can. I think what you can do is focus on the things that matter at the moment, that they're important. So, if it was school sports day, for example, there was nothing going in my diary on that afternoon, because being and supporting my kids, at school sports day was the most important thing. And then you know what it's like. You have to be away, or you might have a big presentation. There's other times when you've got to focus on work, and that's okay to do that, because you want it all in your life. So I think the minute you accept you can't be perfect and you can't have it all, and it's probably a bit of a juggling act, having the right balls in the air and coming down at the right time, then it's okay. And I was also quite lucky, and I used to feel quite a lot of guilt. I remember I was very lucky to have a coach. And I remember talking through with my coach about, how I felt a bad wife, a bad mother, bad at my job, because all the balls were constantly going round. And she helped me reframe my thinking, which was probably one of the biggest things that helped. I used to feel guilty if I was the last mum picking my kids up from nursery. I'd be sprinting across the playground, so the hair sticking out. As I arrived at the gym. Well, you know what it's like.
Yeah.
And I used to think, oh my God, I'm like last mum, I'm a really bad mother, oh God. And actually, if you reframe it and you think, aren't I lucky that I'm privileged to pick my kids up? I'm privileged to be able to sit and talk to them while they have their tea. I can take them to the park because it's a lovely night, and try and remove that guilt element and be grateful and thankful for the things that you can do, not the things that you're beating yourself up about.
Yeah, and it's that focus on the positives, isn't it? Because just as you were saying that, I was thinking, think of all the parents out there that do shift work that might not see their children all week because of the shift pattern they're on and stuff like that. Actually, when you start to think like that, it's like, stop this. But I mean, we know as humans we have that negativity bias, don't we? So we always go to the negative. But actually, focusing on those positives really sounds like it was really helpful. All right, time to give a quick shout out to the people making this podcast happen. These are the brilliant sponsors backing bold, fearless conversations like this one. Let's hear from them. Ensuring food safety and quality is crucial. That's why businesses trust Microsearch Laboratories, part of the IFP Labs group. UCAS accredited MicroSearch offers microbiological, nutritional and allergen testing for food, drink and water, delivering fast results and expert support. With over 30 years of experience, trusted by leading manufacturers and retailers, and a commitment to sustainability, MicroSearch is your partner in product safety. Visit micro-search.co.uk to learn more. The Fearless Leaders programme is our flagship leadership development offer, designed for organisations who want to grow confident, influential leaders at every level. Whether you're supporting new senior leaders or investing in succession planning, we work as your L&D partner to deliver practical, tailored development that drives real impact. Find out more at fearlessfoodies.co.uk. And we're back. Let's dive right in.
I think it does help, because I think if you can think positively, then your frame of mind is on that sort of train of thought, and it definitely helps. And I mean, mine are 23 and 20 now, and you don't realise how fast the years go by, and you have to take those moments while they're there and enjoy them, because mine are at uni now, and I get to see them in holidays, and I'd give anything to see them every night.
I know, it's so funny, isn't it? Because like I am starting to see that process speed up. So my daughter's 7, and I'm starting to feel like, oh God, like she's going into key stage 2. She's got to wear a tie in school. I'm like, oh my God, like how has she got that? Oh, so I can sort of see, and because I had her later, a lot of my friends have already got kids at uni and stuff like that. So I can see it, but sometimes it doesn't help in those moments, does it? When they're being, when they say the years go quickly, don't they? The days are long, but the years go quickly.
I know, but then I'd give anything to be building sandcastles or jumping waves again now.
I know. Well, this is the thing. We focus on the negatives, don't we, kind of thing. Please tell me that you did things like had a cleaner and stuff like that, because I always feel like when I'm coaching people and they're like, oh, I've got this, I've got that, and then they're talking about doing their cleaning on a Saturday morning. I'm like, if you're in a position to, and not everybody listening will be in a position to, but if you are earning enough money to do that, why would you not do that? It's pick your battles, isn't it? And get the support.
Oh, yeah.
Or pay for the support where you can.
Yeah, and I think, to be honest, it was one of the biggest nuggets I took out of a Women in Leadership conference when I was younger. So I remember a lady standing up and she said, where you can, outsource parts of your life that you don't love. And I remember my husband and I totted up how much a day, a week, a year we were spending on sandwiches and cups of tea in the office. And even if one of you is spending £5 or £10 a day on, you don't need much for that. Probably 3 cups of tea and a meal deal is £10. That's £200 a month, which, if you decide, all of my working life after we had kids, my husband made my lunch. I was very lucky. I took a packed lunch. I took tea bags and milk. And we saved money on refreshments, and we paid for a cleaner, and we paid for an ironing lady with that money. And so many people that I've talked to have gone, oh my God, that resonates so much. I never thought I could do that. But actually just making that slight change means that, we can do. Because people think nothing is spending £3, £4 on a coffee, don't they?
I have to tell myself that when I'm like, I can't be bothered to make my lunch. I'm like, but you can afford, if you make your lunch, you can afford those things. And it's all about choices, really, isn't it?
I think that's it. And, don't get me wrong, sometimes people love buying coffees, and if that's what they want to do, that's great. But if you need to make those choices, it's where you make those trade-off decisions, isn't it, to help you?
Yeah. See, everybody listening, see, she's human, and she's like, just like a normal person. This whole, she's a director in retail. She's
still normal. I'm not. My husband made me lunch.
Well, yeah. And segueing back to that, because I think there might be some value for listeners to hear about, because we have a lot of retail listeners, but we have a lot of suppliers into retailers that listen to this podcast. And I think there's almost like this curtain of, clearly, if I'm like, oh my goodness, there's this retail person, the retail god on a call with me. What do you kind of wish manufacturers knew more about retail? Or what do you think there's some common misconceptions around what goes on behind the doors in retail?
I think, it is so fast paced and decisions are made and responses needed immediately. And I'm not sure people see that. And I guess, I haven't been on the manufacturing side, so I can't put myself in the manufacturing shoes. But, as a retailer, you're looking at last week's sales and trying to work out what went well or what didn't go so well and make any changes for this week. You're on this week in terms of what's launching, what's happening, need to just make sure that that's okay. What's going on next week? Oh, and actually 12 months' time, we're thinking of this innovation and Christmas. And so you're in a million different time zones.
Yeah.
If somebody wants something in retail, because you need to change things as fast as you physically can to get it right for customers.
Yeah.
If somebody's challenged you, you probably need an answer by 5 o'clock that night. And if you're putting a new campaign on and suddenly, from my perspective, private label's part of it, somebody might go, well, in 4 weeks, we're going to do this. Can we have some themed products, please? And it's not that anybody's deliberately trying to put short time frames in place or be bloody minded about, the quality of a product or how it needs to be packed. It's probably just that you're constantly trying to do the right thing for the customer and make sure that everything is right. And that sometimes means changing decisions, or it means evolving the plan, because what you thought was going to work hasn't quite gone as you thought it was going to. So these decisions and the fast pace and the ways of working, it's never anybody trying to be horrible to someone else or give ridiculous deadlines. It's more just trying to get it right so that you can have an amazing campaign, or you can be first to market with something at the end of the day for most customers.
And I think that's good to hear, because it does sometimes feel like, and when I'm running workshops and I come up with scenarios and I'm like, the retailer has just phoned you and needs 100 samples and they've all got to be hand sealed and you need to send them by tomorrow morning. And people are like, oh my goodness, have you worked in this business? I'm like, no, it's just like that everywhere. It can feel like a lot, and it can feel a little bit like, are they just doing it to testers or whatever? But actually what you're saying is, the people within retail are so passionate about getting it right and getting it right for the customer, and need to be agile, but are actually part of a massive machine that is hard to be agile in. Yeah, so that's what it sort of gets squeezed back to the supplier, basically.
It does. And, I know within product development is often one of those. Product development and probably the packaging critical path are often the areas that get squeezed in it.
Yeah.
I remember we, I think one of the best bits we did was we launched a coronation quiche for King Charles III's coronation. Brilliant product developer, Natalie Harrott, worked with, our manufacturing sites, a team. We had this product on shelf within 10 days.
Oh my goodness.
Now, the pressure that the team were under, because you had, I think the recipe had got released on the Monday night from the Palace. And suddenly there's this piece, which is, well, we have counters. We've got our own manufacturing business in Morrisons. If anyone can do this, we can.
Yeah.
But you like to set yourself, challenges like that, because if when you succeed and you land it, it's a great PR sort of, kudos. And it's also great for customers who don't want to make it themselves, but could have gone and bought it for their street parties and bits. So, sometimes we do put ourselves under that silly pressure, but it's always for the right reasons.
Yeah. Just at the time you're like, why are we doing this? But
absolutely.
I mean, I think that is the fastest on a chilled product that I've ever heard in terms of.
I mean, the good thing was, because it was a counter, you didn't need printed boxes and everything that all of that took into place. You could just have a printed GLP label, but But it was, it was one of those crazy ideas that sometimes you just got to go for.
Yeah. So anything else you feel like you want to say about working in the world of retail and what you want people to know before we talk about what you're doing now?
No, I mean, I just think retail is it is a absolutely brilliant industry. There are so many opportunities. And I think, if people are considering a career in retail, I would certainly explore it. It's been great for me. I think people either love it or they hate it. It's one of those industries you either fall in love with and you probably never leave, or you do 6 months and you want to get out of it because it's so crazy.
I always say the same about manufacturing. I was at a conference one week. We were doing a live podcast, and there was a girl young lady in the audience who was like in her placement year or last year at university, and she said, and what words of advice have you got for me as I enter the food industry? And I just got the microphone and went, run. But it's not true. It's not true, is it? But it's that love-hate thing, isn't it? It's
I think
we wouldn't stay in it if we didn't love it. Do you know what I mean?
No,
So,
absolutely. And I think, it's a similar thing for the food industry in totality. If people are interested in it, then do it, because the opportunities, are fantastic. If you stay in manufacturing, there's so many different manufacturers to keep learning different skills and move about. And I just think it is one of the most rewarding industries, because you physically develop products, you see them land on the shelf, you see the sales, the pride that you and the team then have in terms of what you have done, and that there aren't that many industries where you just see those tangible benefits, are there, at the end of the day? This is a great industry.
Yeah, there's nothing better than that. I just love that feeling of standing in a queue and seeing somebody putting your product in a basket that you've developed or had a part of, and you kind of like have that sense of pride, don't you?
Definitely, yeah. And I think, people should reach out and talk to people that are in the industry. I have never reached out to any senior leaders or people who haven't been happy to have a chat with me and share their experiences, or talk to me about, the pros and cons of doing things. And, a bit like you say, people are frightened to. Then, whether it's within the organisation or whether it's reaching out to people through a network, don't be afraid to do that and explore opportunities, because it generally pays dividends.
Yeah, and people are generally quite nice, but we just create this stuff in our head. So you've now left Morrisons and you're doing something completely different. So tell us about that.
I have, yeah. So, so probably about 18 months ago, when you and I had an initial chat, I was considering leaving the corporate world, and probably for a number of reasons. I think my youngest son started uni. I'd gone to work for David Potts at Morrisons, and he'd left as CEO. And I didn't feel the same oomph. I've always loved what I'm doing, always been really passionate, and just didn't feel the same oomph. And I thought, oh God, fate's telling me that, if you're ever going to try something different, now is probably the time to do it. So I thought about what I was going to do, and I thought, I'm going to do consulting. And I remember someone saying to me, well, what are you going to consult in? I'm going, I'm just going to do a bit of consulting. That's what you do, isn't it? And it took me probably about 6 months to map out what I wanted to do. And I guess there were two things that I've always loved through my career: product and people. And I thought, how can I do both of these? So I have set myself up to do some consulting on the product side, where I'm helping businesses with probably a lot of category management, with innovation and product development pipelines, looking at their processes, some of their quality management processes, and helping them work through how they could improve and what they could do, which again, I'm loving, because I get to work with different businesses, different industries, different people, different challenges, different problems. So really enjoying that. And then I've always loved mentoring, coaching and developing people through the organisation as well, whether that was graduates and degree apprentices, or whether it was developing senior leaders up to director roles. And so I got myself a coaching qualification. I undertook a training programme with Barefoot Coaching, which was just fantastic. I thought after 30 years, I knew what I was doing with coaching. And I guess you do in the corporate industry sort of world.
Yeah.
But probably a lot of bad habits. And I think what the training programs do is really help equip you with those the tools and the techniques. I know you did something similar, didn't you?
Yeah. And I remember you saying to me, I thought I'd been coaching for the last 30 years, but I've actually been mentoring, like actually understanding the difference between helping people come to their own conclusions and, drawing out their own insights. They both have a place, but mentoring is more telling people what to do. And I think there's a lot of people that think coaching is telling people what to do, and it's not.
No, absolutely. And it's always, you know what it's like. It works on the premise, doesn't it, that actually everybody has all the answers inside of them, and just by asking the right questions and trying to understand why something's important, or what that end result really looks like, that you can find the path to it. So I'm enjoying doing some coaching. I am doing a bit of mentoring, doing a bit of coach mentoring as well, where people are wanting a bit of a hybrid approach and some support and help. And then, quite excited. I think I'm going to be helping you with some training programs as well.
You
so
are,
really enjoying all
yeah.
of that development side of life. It's a great balance, actually, being able to do the two elements.
Yeah, so you're getting the best of all of those worlds and still have your hand in the day-to-day, how, the operations and helping people to develop their products, their ranges, their strategy and all of that. But you've also got all of these skills now to help people with their mindset and all of that. Like, what a combination.
Yeah, it's lovely. I am enjoying it. And do you know what's even better? I know this is going out in the winter, but it's June. I love tennis. It's Wimbledon fortnight. I was lucky enough to take my son on Monday. I can manage my days now and watch some tennis during Wimbledon fortnight nearly every day, which is great. So if I am doing a project for you at the moment, I am working hard, I promise, but there will be a little bit of tennis in the afternoon.
It's all right. This goes out like it's going to be cold and dark and all of that when this podcast goes out. So, and there is something about that, isn't there? It allows you to have that flexibility and enjoy the life. But also, I don't know about you, this is how I feel, is that feeling of giving back. And actually, you have got 30 years of knowledge, and it would be a real shame for that to just be lost. Do you know what I mean? From the industry. So actually you're giving back to the industry, and the industry is gaining from that through the coaching and the mentoring that you can do with people in food.
Oh, thanks. That's very kind, Amy. Thank you. Yeah, and I love it. I love seeing, it's a bit like launching a product. You can see the difference, and you can see how people are growing or their mindsets changed, can't you? From the first session you have right through to the end of the program. I got up the other Friday morning and I picked up a text from the boss of someone I'm coaching, and it just said, "Whatever you're doing with this person, it's brilliant. Keep going. I've noticed a difference." And I just texted back and went, "Oh my God, that's such a lovely text to sort of turn my work phone onto in the morning." And knowing that the individual is feeling more empowered and feeling more confident and resilient, or have helped them with a challenge. And also then, I guess, knowing that people in the business they're working in are seeing a difference. It's very rewarding and fulfilling, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So what's next? More of the same? More stuff with Fearless Foodies, just saying.
I hope so. I mean, I've really just got going. So I started for real, even though I left probably this time last year. I was doing the program. I wanted to give myself a bit of time off. I set the business up.
Oh my goodness. And like going through a coaching training program, like that is like a journey, isn't it? Because you get a lot of coaching yourself.
Because at one point, someone had said, "Well, would you consider staying on past your notice and doing another 4 months, and you can do your coaching program for those 2 days alongside it?" I thought, "Oh my God, thank God I didn't actually do that, because I don't know how I would have managed reality a full-time job in 3 days plus a coaching program."
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad you didn't.
But yeah, so really, I got myself going probably about 4 months ago.
Yeah.
So really just getting going and trying to work out where I can add value. So yeah, hopefully some more consulting and helping businesses with that pipeline or their processes. Hopefully lots more coaching. I'm excited to get going with Fearless Foodies now, and start some coaching with you, and also do a bit of training in the next few months. So yeah, hopefully more of the same, Amy. Hopefully a lot more of the same.
Yeah, well, I'm sure there will be people listening that will be wanting a piece of your coaching and mentoring, so they can obviously get in touch with you or me if we want to do it through Fearless Foodies. If there's, the programs that we run and the training that we do, we're collabing on a lot of stuff, aren't we? So,
oh yeah.
And you're quite active on LinkedIn, even though you don't really want to be, because I know you don't really like the whole visibility thing.
I try to be. I'm not on any other social media. I generally don't do social media in any way, shape or form. I am, and I've got, I have a good friend, Don Birch, who prods me every so often if I'm not active on LinkedIn.
Do I need to start prodding you as well?
I'm all right. I do. I try to do. So if anybody wants to connect or message me direct, then love to have a conversation. And if I can help in any way, whether that's on my own or whether through all the great programs that you offer the business and coaching support that you offer through Fearless Foodies, then would love to catch up with anyone.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Gail. I know there's going to be lots of people that have taken lots from this conversation, and thank you for proving to me that retail directors are not as scary as I used to think they are. I know that. I knew that already, but...
Oh, well, thank you very much for having me on, Amy. As ever, it was a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you. And I will see everybody else next week. See you later. That's a wrap on this episode of The Fearless Foodie. If it hit home, subscribe, leave a review and share it with someone who's ready for less fluff and more real talk. And if you're ready to build a bolder, braver, more brilliant team, come find me at fearlessfoodies.co.uk. Until next time, be bold, be brave, be fearless.